Everyone, get in the car! We're leaving this town now! Ah! What the? Impossible! This isn't the car! No! No! Ah!
The moon haunts you!
Great. We're saving the world, and here comes the loosest cannon.
Blokees has once again blessed us with more Marvel Rivals model kits. Today we're taking a look at Spider, Rocket Raccoon, and Moon Knight. Starting off with the Evangelion ripoff, right off the bat I just want to say how extremely happy I am that we actually got this mech as soon as we did. Few may remember it actually being on my personal wish list when the Blokees line first got revealed. After all, this is a design that perfectly lends itself to a fun action figure, and one that I'm surprised we honestly don't have more of. Yeah, there's a Marvel Legends, there's a Sentinel Spider-Verse one. Hey look, Penny's a statue. I'm sure that won't come into play later. But looking at the figure itself, man, it's just so damn good. The shinier plastics on Spider-Man and Venom stood out a bit, but here, yeah, robot shiny. Makes sense to me. Other than that, of course, Blokees absolutely nails the design. At this scale, there's definitely going to be some missing details, but they're always nailing the sculpts regardless, even if they aren't necessarily one-to-one. Details that might be left out are usually stuff you could just totally do yourself, like I ended up doing for Spidey's web lines, but the figures still look good, even without any modifications, because Spider here just proves it. I just love the mech design in general, the lanky limbs, the skinny, almost tube-like waist, the rivets and panel lining all over the body. It's just so cool. I actually like that goofy-ass boomerang on the chest, and I especially love how the shoulder pads rotate forward and open up to become cannons just like in the game. It's very well implemented. But that's not the only feature Spider has going on for itself. A light-up gimmick in the chest. Lights up the eyes, core, and you can see it poking through the neck. Cool, I guess. Maybe if the light was a bit brighter or something, but as is, it's barely noticeable most of the time. Thankfully, it doesn't affect articulation or anything. Speaking of which, ball joint in the head, ball joint at the neck allows for some pretty good range. Butterfly joints in the shoulders, but unlike Spidey and Venom, the movement only goes forward, which is sort of a bummer. Shoulder joints are connected by a ball, but the actual shoulder only hinges up and down. Shoulder pads are attached to a hinge joint so you can reposition them, and then a ball joint on the end connecting the whole assembly. Previously mentioned rotation for the cannons, and whatever the hell you'd call this. Swivel at the robo biceps. Double jointed elbows get pretty decent range. A wrist hinge, and to top it off, 4 separate finger joints. The thumb is on a ball joint, the fingers are on clips so they can hinge. Me likey. I think there's goddamn 3 ball joints in the torso, one at the top, one in the middle, and one at the bottom. Range is pretty good, but probably not as good as you'd expect. Oh, these panels in the back are on ball joints as well, and they reveal secret ports for later. Drop down hips allow for way more forward and back. Ball joint and the thigh swivel hidden behind the armor. Double jointed knees get good range. Ball hinges at the ankles allow for great up and down, and rocker. And toe joints, 2 actually for Spider's freaky toes. So while there are a ton of joints at play here, I actually feel like the mech's articulation isn't as good as the previous 2 releases. Now that's probably to be expected since those were a lot more humanoid and, well, less weird. Don't get me wrong, it can pose, honestly very well. But you can also feel the slight hindrances that the design unfortunately creates for movement. Gotta hand it to Blokees, I'm still incredibly impressed. You know what I'm not as impressed with? Firstly, Spider comes with 4 separate posable arms for when she does her ultimate. These plug into the previously teased ports, and yeah, I'm super stoked about the inclusion of these. I'd argue it adds even more presence to the mech's design. I will say, these aren't as posable or as impressive as the Venom arms. In fact, I've already noticed some looseness in the hinge joints at the bottom, but I digress. They're still dope, especially since they have 4 hinge joints per arm. Hell yeah. Then there's this piece of shit. I know I said in my original wishlist video that I didn't really care if we got a penny, but this is kind of the lamest excuse for an inclusion I've seen in a hot minute. A grayscale statue that I have to paint myself. Thanks. And like, it wouldn't even really be easy to do. Like, Penny has so many little tiny details and features, my shaky ass hands wouldn't be able to like, recreate with a brush. It's just kind of lame. At least the included stand is kind of cool. I guess. And that's it. Which, like, I know Venom didn't come with a lot either, but like, Penny has more stuff you could include. Like, no nest, no web effects. Maybe they were gutted in favor for the useless light up feature? I don't know. I hope you don't think I'm being too hard on Spider here. This is a great model kit and definitely worth the purchase. It is just probably the weirdest one I reviewed so far, and just does have some unfortunately strange decisions that do hold it back a bit. Speaking of strange decisions, let's talk about Rocket. Just to gush about Rival's design for him for just a sec, I absolutely love the punk vibe. with all the spikes and the crazy mohawk. It's definitely super underrated in terms of rocket designs. This kit definitely had the biggest challenge for Blokees so far, seeing how not only are his proportions wildly unique and unlike anything we've gotten so far, but also fairly asymmetrical in many places, just a much more all over the place look than a lot of the other kits. Trying to point out every single little detail is going to bring the video over to an hour, so I'm not going to bore y'all to death. All I'll say is that aside from certain parts of the design not being properly colored, it's all there, in all that flarkin' glory. Look at that tail, man. Bro's giving Squirrel Girl a run for her money. And actual pupils? Now you're just spoiling me, Blokees. Sticking around at the head, let's jump into the articulation. Ball joint at the head, ball joint in the neck, can't look up very much because of his collar, but not bad downward tilt. The front part of his mohawk is actually on a ball joint too, and it does add some slight dynamism to his vibe. The eyeballs are actually on ball joints, which is really cool, but it does kind of require taking apart the whole face, and also you gotta use this tool that I lost, so I don't want to get the eyes off centered anyways, so there's no point in doing it. Butterfly joints in the shoulders, but again, like Spider, they only move forward for some reason. Arm on a hinge joint and can lift up, not too bad. Bicep swivels, double jointed elbows, but the tops of the gloves do unfortunately get in the way. There's actually a swivel at the top of the gloves, and hinge and swivels at the wrists. Upper torso is on a ball joint, but barely gets much range. Most of that movement is coming from the ball joint at the lower torso. Let's not forget about his jet booster things on the back here. Swivel, hinge, swivel. Does this count? Tail plugged into his ass has a swivel at the base and can hinge in basically any direction you want it to go. Ball joint here, ball joint there. Tail just has some awesome range overall. Feels very satisfying to pose. Drop down at the hips can allow him to kick out this far and kick back that far. Thigh swivels, double knees don't get a ton of motion here. Hinge and swivel for the other knee? Not sure what you call it. And a toe hinge. Unfortunately, the feet can't do the ankle rocker since, you know, it's not the usual setup. Messing around with Rocket is a bit of a strange experience, seeing how he has most of the movement we've grown accustomed to with the Marvel Rivals model kits, but I do think it ultimately comes down to the specific anatomy and design choices that definitely affect his range. You can absolutely still pose him, but I do think you certainly run into quite a few more speed bumps along the way. Like, I have noticed some looseness in this torso and head, which is really unfortunate. I mean, look, it's not like you need to be hitting 3-point stances or anything, it's Rocket Raccoon. He runs around like a little freak or just stands there barking demands.
Who are you calling a raccoon, huh?
But he wouldn't be as demanding without a decent set of accessories, right? Right? Oh no. He does come with an alternate pair of fists, which is cool, but I don't really think I'd ever have him decking someone, it's just not really his style. Then we got just one pair of flame blast effects, colored in metallic red. For some reason. It's weird because both his jetpack things and his gun come with ports for these, so you'd think like they just include two separate pairs, but no, I don't know, I guess they just didn't feel like it. Speaking of the gun, holy shit, dude, this thing looks amazing. I've never truly taken the time to appreciate just how sexy this thing is. Just a mashup of techno sci-fi goodness. Even opens up for what I believe is the healing mode? I'm not entirely sure. Also, it's goddamn titanic. Spoiler alert for the size comparisons, it's almost bigger than Spidey. Dear sweet Jesus. Dude, I mean, I'm sold. Let's get this in his hands already and just start. This motherfucker cannot hold his gun. You know, the single thing he does in game except crawl around like a little bitch. I know what you're thinking, Renzo. It's fine. Just use the included stand to fake him holding his gun. This is just lame, man. I'm not even that angry. I'm just disappointed. I know it's not a flexible plastic like Hasbro hands, I get it, but at least at that point, just include an alternate pair of hands just fused to the gun to make it easier to attach. I don't know, you had to do something, but they just didn't feel like it, I guess. I guess the stand was a nice idea, if it worked. I honestly wouldn't even be making that big of a deal out of it if, again, the gun literally wasn't half of the design. Because at this point, just posing him feels weird and kind of off. I've seen someone use blue tack, so I might try that. Or I might genuinely just like glue them into the hands, because like, yeah, they dropped the ball. Rocket himself is not a horrible figure, but I definitely feel like he was the most experimental of the bunch, and you can certainly tell. I really hope that this was a learning experience for Blokees, and that they know how to do things slightly differently next time. I mean, I still appreciate the fact that we even got him so quickly. He's not a slug like Hasbro will definitely make him, if they ever get around to him. But I'd be curious to see them maybe try a smaller galaxy-scaled figure, because Jesus H. Christ, he a big boy. But none of that matters, Blokees, I absolutely forgive you. Moon Knight is absolute peak. It might be recency bias, but I don't really care. Moon Knight is definitely one of the best model kits Blokees has put out for the Rivals line. His design in game is just so cool, dude. I love all the little details and symbols throughout the suit. In particular, I've always loved the onks on the knee pads and how his hood resembles a falcon. It borrows tons of elements from Moon Knight's history, but fully makes it its own thing. Like, you take one look at this and go, yep, that's Rivals Moon Knight. Of course, Blokees nails the look as usual, though like most of their other kits, not every detail is 100% game accurate. I saw someone use a Gundam marker to do the panel lining on the suit and it looked killer, so I'm gonna have to try that. It's definitely the most notable on the chest area because it feels a little empty. Before we jump into articulation, I do have to talk about this cape. First of all, wired soft goods capes will always reign supreme over rubber or god forbid hard candy shell plastic capes. And this one's pretty good. A much bigger improvement over the Blokees Superman figure. The way it attaches, it's still a bit heavy to like hold itself up, but it's not bad. I will say the cape is a little weird to work with. It comes flattened out, which gives you a perfect recreation of his dumb gliding in the game. The only issue with that is that it doesn't naturally want to fold down, and all the sides like to kind of flare out. It's hard to explain. Basically, you really need to fold the wire several times to get the cape to lay a lot more naturally. Not a deal breaker, just something I figured I'd mention. Now then, Moon Knight's got a ball joint in the head, ball joint in the neck, which with the hood on doesn't allow for great looking up. Downwards is kind of ridiculous. Pretty damn limited butterfly jointed shoulders, which only go slightly forward. Actually, I lied. You can kind of move them up, down, too. I didn't even know this. Hinge joint at the shoulders can basically go up most of the way. You just have to adjust the shoulder pads, which, like Spider, are on hinge joints with a ball joint at the end. Bicep swivels. Double elbows allow for slightly above 90 degrees. Ball hinges at the wrists allow for side to side and up and down. Upper torso movement doesn't get much crunch, but insane arc back. Seriously, bro's trying to throw his ass back. And a ball joint at the lower torso as well. Drop down hips allow for great leg movement. Thigh swivels. Double jointed knees. Not bad. Ball hinge ankles allow for up and down, and good rocker. And the ever-present toe hinges. We're back to the basics with this one for sure, but given how armored up Spectre is in this form, movement is still super solid, and if anything, only slightly behind Spidey. All you really need to do is to be able to make him aura farm, and yeah, he can definitely do that. But, our Fist of Khonshu wouldn't be complete without his accessories. So what does he have to offer? He comes with 3 pairs of hands total. The grip hands, fists with the moonarangs molded to them, and an open set. While I definitely would have loved just regular fists, you can sort of cheat it with the gripping ones depending on the angle. Hey look, they did the hands with the weapon parts attached already. That would have been helpful a figure ago, huh? The grip hands are actually included for the baton/billy club things. I always forget he actually has these in game, but damn, posing him with him actually rocks. He also comes with an onk for him to worship. Take notes, Hasbro. Also, weirdly enough, a completely alternate head. Not entirely sure what it's for though. It's not like Moon Knight is taking off his hood at any point in the game, or maybe he does. I have no idea, but I appreciate them throwing it in regardless. I'd say that's a pretty good loadout. Maybe a grapple or a big slash effect would have been appreciated, but I'm getting pretty greedy as is, so I'm more than happy with the options that we got. I know Moon Knight may not be as impressive as Spidey or Venom in the posing department, but he's really not that far behind. Everything you can do with him is exactly what Moon Knight would do, and that cape adds so much presence to the figure, it's not even funny. Yeah, he's there, in my opinion. He might actually even be better than them in some aspects, just in terms of how clean he is, but obviously Spidey and Venom can hit a lot more poses than he can. Before we conclude things, I just want to bring them all together. Every Blokees Marvel Rivals model kits released so far, just to contrast and compare. And wow. Yeah, this scale is beyond. Of course, we knew this already, and I've consistently said how much it doesn't bother me, but I think I sort of am lying to myself. Spidey and Moon Knight look pretty good next to each other. The 2 tanks should be a lot bigger, and Rocket, I mean, I don't really even have to explain myself. Bro's on that Pym particle shit. Aside from crying and moaning about the scale, they all look amazing next to each other, really. Blokees is really showing Rivals some major love, and I absolutely love Rivals and the game's design, so I'm a very, very, very happy man. Here they are next to some other figures for scale reference, just in case you want to try to sneak these into a 1/12 collection. You probably want to try to avoid that, especially Legends. I don't think they'd go too well with them. Building each of the kits has also been a very interesting experience. My sausage fingers don't always make it easy, and I've definitely had some very frustrating moments during some of the builds, but honestly I don't do a lot of LEGO stuff nowadays. It's been a really fun challenge to put these together. Plus they usually only take like an hour or so depending on the kit, so that's a bonus. And of course, as I'm sure you can tell, I am incredibly happy with these figures. Yes, they're not all perfect, some make some really dumb decisions, but like I said in my previous video, it's just all fun. Most of the griping I've done is purely out of love and hope that Blokees can continue to improve, make each one better than the last. We know Jeff and Sue are coming soon, and this incredible Ultron. From that point on, I really have no idea what the plan for the Blokees line is. I hope it continues, because there's so many characters I'd love to see out of this game. And at the pace they're going, we're basically getting a figure every month, which has been awesome. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and don't forget to ignite the bat!
Epic victory! Big win!
They're here. There